Hey everyone, Brett Tremblay here with Get Staffed Up, and today I have the pleasure of doing our very first Candid Convo, and I have with us today, very happy to have Angela Miller. Angela, thank you so much for agreeing to let us ask you some questions and having this Candid Convo.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. As you said, I'm Angela Miller. I am office manager of a small law firm in Arlington, Virginia.
What's the law firm? What do you guys do, and who do you serve?
Yeah, our law firm is the Spiggle Law Firm. We serve women who have been fired or afraid that they might be. Most of our clients have been wrongfully terminated or discriminated against, or they feel that they aren't being paid fairly. It's a lot of employment law related cases, only plaintiff side. So, meaning all of our clients are employees, not employers.
Right, and your marketing is focused on women. I heard that right.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Now, have you found that the niche down marketing has helped with the right type of referrals and leads?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our traffic is organic. So we get a lot of referrals just from local firms in the area and also just from our clients who had a good experience and just feel that others they refer will have a similar experience as well.
I mean, that's really interesting. So, do you refuse to represent men? I'm guessing the answer is no.
Not
And
at all. No. We represent both men and women. We just found that there's not a lot of law firms that are particularly geared in that direction. One of the areas we specialize in is pregnancy discrimination. So that does primarily affect women. So a lot of our clients are women who've experienced gender discrimination in relation to pregnancy and FMLA leave and things like that. So it's less of a standard that we only represent women in more of a specialization in our field.
yeah, and the reason I'm asking about this is I think it's just interesting as one of the phrases I like is niches bring riches. So at Get Staffed Up, we've had a lot of people say, why do you guys only focus on attorneys and you're missing out on so much? And yeah, we could try to be all things to all people, but then you spread your different messages and you have to create new content and new campaigns. And this business was started by myself and one other attorney, right? Two attorneys. And so we get to speak the language to law firms. We get to say, hey, law firms, check us out, not just, hey, business owner, check us out. Now,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of clients that don't own law firms, non-lawyer clients. It's just that the niche marketing helps you find the right publications with the right message and target the right people. And that's what you guys are doing, focusing on women who have been discriminated against, but you still are getting referrals and leads for men as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even go as far to say that we have just as many male clients as female clients.
Okay.
But as Tom Spiggle, the owner of the firm, wrote a book actually about pregnancy discrimination, that is definitely a specialization that we focus on.
That is very interesting. I would like to see that book.
Yeah,
Um,
it's actually on Amazon, so you can check it out. It's on Kindle. It's called You're Pregnant, You're Fired. And even though that is the title, it actually is a complete overview of a lot of employment law topics. Just anyone can get it. It really helps you to kind of understand your rights going into a new position. And if you experience pushback, if you've experienced something you feel might be illegal or discriminatory, how to approach that and the next steps to take.
Wow, and I'm also going to venture to guess because I've had female business owners make comments like, "Oh man, one of my employees just got pregnant. What do I do?" And so I don't think you're suing 100% of the people that your firm has to sue are not male-owned businesses. I would venture to say that it's across the board, right? Because it's
Yeah, it's all different kinds of businesses. I mean, sometimes it's a small business, sometimes it's a huger company that we're looking at. It really depends. And I mean, sometimes it's just education. I mean, these people just aren't sure how to advocate for themselves. So sometimes what we're doing is not necessarily suing. We're giving them advice. We're helping them negotiate. Sometimes we don't even reach out. They're really looking for just guidance behind the scenes, and that's also a service that we offer.
Yeah. Ah, that's very interesting. Well, I hope our audience is mostly attorneys, like we talked about the niches. We send out emails to over 50,000 attorneys every week. And so if anyone, before we get into the virtual staffing side of things, if anyone has that type of claim or a friend or referral, there you guys are, Spiggle Law Firm in North Carolina.
Absolutely. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we're located in Virginia. We do
Okay.
take some cases in North Carolina, as the owner Tom Spiggle is barred there. We also take cases in Maryland, DC, and now New York. So right now, those are the areas we focus on.
Awesome. That's good to know. And I know Tom, and I know he was in North Carolina. So I didn't know you guys also did New York and Maryland. So
Yeah, we
excellent.
just hired an attorney who actually moved here from New York, so he has a lot of experience working down there, and he also has experience working up here now. So, uh, yeah, it's great to just kind of be able to represent different clients in different areas of the country.
Absolutely. Now tell me about, let's talk about your experience of virtual employees, right? And a lot of our clients, I mean, some of them were purely virtual before we met them. Some had hired other virtual team members and staff members before we met them. Some, the very first virtual hire they made was through us. And so we have a mixed bag, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. But tell us about your firm's experience in working with virtual team members.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually were already kind of hybrid virtual. We have a couple attorneys that live just further downstate in Virginia, so they're rarely in the office. So we have our practice management systems like Practice Panther. We use Infusionsoft as our CRM. So we have a lot of our business is already virtual. So it kind of made sense with Get Staffed Up as we were looking to fill that role of an intake specialist. It seemed like the logical next step. Like we had never done a completely virtual, but we felt like we had the systems in place in order to make that step.
Okay, so you guys had like you said, a hybrid virtual framework, and then through Get Staffed Up, you hired an intake specialist, and that was your first full-time virtual team member.
It was, yes. That being said, we had most of our team members were part-time work from home already. So we already knew that we had the tools in place for our team members to work from home with no issues. We had just never had the experience of they're not coming in the office, period, and you have to train them. So it was just the training side of it that we had to make sure we had in place in order to move it to Get Staffed Up and hiring someone there.
Yeah, and that's a good point because we talk about training all the time. We're dealing with some small law firms that have never onboarded a new staff member before, and it's not like you're hired now. Just go run your department and do all these tasks. You have to train, and there's the onboarding period and the training period, and it takes some time to get any employee, whether they're virtual or not, up and running, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we kept that in mind when we looked towards Get Staffed Up. One software we particularly used is a software called Trainual, and it's allowed us to basically put our training booklet completely online and put like quizzes and knowledge reinforcement tools. So basically, we took everything that we would do for training in office and we put it on this online program. So that way, when we found a candidate that we liked through Get Staffed Up, we just plugged them in all of our accounts and plugged them in Trainual and said, okay, here's your training packet. We'll set up Zoom calls throughout the day, check on your progress. And it allowed us to kind of solidify a virtual training system.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard a lot of good things about Trainual. Some people have asked us, well, why don't you train our people? And it's like, well, first of all, we're our specialty is finding really talented and then vetting and testing and getting people ready to work for you, for law firm owners, for other business owners. But every business is so unique. If you're using Infusionsoft, like you said, and Practice Panther, I can't just, or we can't just train somebody to
Absolutely.
well, not what about Clio, what about a different phone service. Every business is so unique that you as the business owners need something in place like Trainual. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great point. And honestly, I would have seen that as more of a detriment if you said, like, oh, they're going to come on pre-trained. I would have been like, oh no, because like you don't know then what do they know, what do they not know? So then you're coming at this place of question of like, well, what additional training do they still need? So I
That's
was actually really pleased with, okay, I know this person is vetted, I know they have the experience. So all now I need to do is just show them our systems and they're ready to go.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think some people would say, "How are you going to train my people?" That's kind of our reaction when someone says, "Well, I want them trained." It's like we don't know your business. But
Yeah.
that being said, a quick side note: we have one of our attorneys has used to do bankruptcy, and so we are putting together a bankruptcy boot camp because we anticipate that, unfortunately, bankruptcy attorneys are going to be pretty busy over the next few years,
Yeah.
and so due to this worldwide pandemic. But so we're going to put them through a bankruptcy boot camp, 3 to 5 days of terms, definitions, filing and forms. But that's just on a very specific niche, and it's also on general stuff, not how your systems run at your business and your CRMs and systems and software, etc. So there's a big difference there.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that will be helpful for those who are being hired as like legal assistants for bankruptcy firms, at least to have that basic knowledge to get them started.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you, what have you learned working with a virtual full-time team member? It's your first one, as you said, and what are some of the tips that you would give other people? Maybe something you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I would say is I think you have to have someone own the process, because we found when we first brought on our first virtual assistant with Get Staffed Up, it was between me and one other member of management where we were kind of like, okay, we're kind of both training. And what that kind of established was the Get Staffed Up person, logically so, being like, okay, but who do I report to? And so I think it's very important to have somebody own the training process and be like, if you have questions, you come to this person first. I think it's really, really important to establish that. And then, like I said, with Trainual, having all your training resources in one spot, even if that's not Trainual, of course, I recommend Trainual, but even if it's just Dropbox, even if it's just Google Drive, so that they're not having to jump all over to, well, this procedure's here and this procedure's in this email. Like that's just a mess and you can't do it. The other thing I would say is 100% necessary is having something like Zoom, having a video conferencing software so that if they do have questions, being just frequently available and counting on that you will need to be, at least for the first few days, to say, hey, if you need me, I can jump on a call for 15 minutes. And just having that open availability, almost like an open door in an office where they can just kind of jump in and say, hey, I have a question. Can I chat with you real quick?
That's all really good feedback. I mean, we talked about, for example, on our website, we have quite a few blogs that talk about how to onboard and how to train because we're giving tips, and some of them, we're outlining the fact that you need about 3 on the low end, 6 on the high end months to really get someone to where they're running at
Of
full speed.
course.
I mean, unless all they're doing is answering the phone the same way every day, clearly that can be learned, in a shorter amount of time. But having access to feedback is something that I think a lot of business owners miss. It's like, well, if you're going to hand out a scorecard, maybe you're that organized, maybe you're handing out some tasks, maybe you're training via Zoom, but what about training and feedback ongoing so that your employee, as we call them now, again, legally, they're Get Staffed Up's employees, so we shield you from the employer liability, which you guys happen to know a lot about.
Yeah.
But they're your full-time team members, so how are you going to help give them that feedback?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that is important. One of the things we do for that is we have a VoIP for our phone server, which allows them to answer the phone, even though some of them are located not anywhere near where we are, sometimes even in a different time zone. But we sometimes will have those calls recorded and we play the message for these call will be recorded for training and auditing purposes. And that allows their manager to go back and just spot check at the end of the month, listen to a few of these, or even during the first week. Usually he's very intensive and listens to a lot of them. So you can kind of go back and say, hey, I listened to a few of your calls. These are some things you could change. These are some things that are going really well. And it allows that constant feedback to continue. At least in our case, that's been very helpful.
Yeah, that's really good information. So I know you have to run. I really appreciate you jumping on Zoom today and doing this candid convo with us. And this is not like a I pretend not to ask you to plug us, but please plug us. So you don't need to plug our services here. Just one thing that you either wished you knew when you started, or one thing you want to leave people with.
Yeah, the only thing I would say honestly is I wish I knew about Get Staffed Up sooner. We had kind of, it was a position that we had started with in-house, and we'd had some kind of like up and down. Yeah, like there were good moments, there were bad moments. I mean, like you do with any position, but just especially now because we're all working from home, this is just so great. And the candidates we have, we're just so happy with. And yeah, it's just been a really good experience overall.
All right. Well, I said don't plug us. You did anyway, so I'll take it. Thank you so much, Angela, for your time today and for being such a fun and good client and firm to work with. I mean, life's really short to work with people that make you miserable. So when you find somebody
Absolutely.
that is just fun and responsible and professional, we're doing our best to deliver great people to you. And I'm glad to hear we've done that.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. You as well. Thanks, Angela.